All right, let's just get right into it. If you're in any kind of leadership role, you have definitely lived through a major transformation. A merger, a big digital overhaul, some huge culture initiative. And you also probably know the statistic that just haunts every single one of these projects. So today, we're going to break down why that number hasn't budged in 30 years, and we're going to expose the fundamental mistake in how we even think about change.
And there it is, 70%. This is the number that every consultant loves to put on their first slide. 70% of all major transformation projects fail. I mean, they feel they hit their goals, they go way over budget, or they just get abandoned altogether. And the crazy part is, for 3 decades, we've known this, we've kind of accepted it, and yet we just keep doing the exact same things. In this quote from Otto Scharmer at MIT, it just nails it. We've completely confused real transformation with just replacement. We think changing the org chart or updating the software is the same as changing the organization. But as he points out, that's just swapping out parts. Real, lasting transformation, that's something much, much deeper.
So this leads us to this giant paradox, doesn't it? For 30 years, we've been staring this 70% failure rate in the face. And for 30 years, our response has been to use the exact same playbook, maybe just a little louder or with a bigger budget. It's basically the definition of insanity, a cycle of well-intentioned failure. And here is that playbook. Does this look familiar? Now, to be clear, none of these things are bad. Stakeholder maps, communication plans, governance. These are all perfectly logical, necessary tools for managing our project. But here's the catch. They are not tools of transformation. They are tools for executing a plan. And as we're about to find out, the plan itself is the problem.
Okay, so the real reason for that 70% failure rate, it's not bad execution. It's not a lack of sponsorship or poor communication. The real culprit is something much deeper. It's a mindset that leaders bring to the table on day one, and it's called the deficit reflex. So, what is this thing? Well, the deficit reflex is that knee-jerk reaction to find what's broken, slap a label on it, and then apply a solution you've used before, as fast as you possibly can. It's a mindset that rewards speed over real understanding. It makes you look decisive, competent, but it completely misses what's actually going on under the surface. It means you're always busy fighting fires, but you never stop to ask why the building is so flammable to begin with.
Think of it like this. The deficit reflex focuses on the easy stuff, the replacement activities. Shuffling reporting lines, putting up new values posters, focusing on tools and timelines. But real transformation, that happens in the deeper work, the stuff you can't see, like shifting people's mental models and really listening. It's about nurturing what's already there, not just ripping it out.
And hey, if you think this is all just some soft, fuzzy problem, just look at this data from Gallup. It's pretty shocking. Only 14% of employees feel like their leaders actually seek out their feedback, and just 16% believe that their input is even valued. This listening deficit, it isn't a side issue. It is the structural problem that leads directly to that 70% failure rate. We are trying to change systems that we fundamentally refuse to listen to.
So if the old way is clearly broken, what's the alternative? Well, the good news is, it turns out there's a much more methodical, you could even say scientific way to do this. It's a human-centered approach that starts from a completely different place.
And that really is the million-dollar question, right? If our natural instinct to find the problem and fix it is the very thing causing us to fail, then where on earth are you supposed to start? The answer is actually incredibly simple, but also profound. You start by listening, but not just casual listening in a town hall. No, you listen scientifically, you measure, you gather data, you create a real baseline of the human system you're trying to influence before you ever try to change it.
So what does this new playbook actually look like in practice? Well, here's an example of a framework that really structures this scientific approach. And it's not just a checklist, it's a full 3-phase system.
And the logic here is just brilliant. Phase 1 is baseline. You measure first, then you understand. And only then do you identify the gaps. Phase 2 is where you actually design and implement your solutions, but they're based on that deep understanding. And Phase 3, sustain, is all about making the change stick by reinforcing and rewarding new behaviors until they become second nature. So let's connect the dots here. That first phase, the baseline phase, is the direct antidote to the deficit reflex. Instead of letting leaders jump to a solution, it forces a pause. It replaces our assumptions with actual evidence. It makes you understand the system as it is before you start prescribing what you think it should be.
And just look at what this kind of scientific listening actually measures. We're not talking about your standard employee satisfaction survey here. We're talking about psychological safety, trust levels between teams, signals of burnout, and, this is so important, identifying the pockets of high performance that already exist. It's about finding what's already working just as much as what isn't.
And that's really the whole key. The insights you get from this deep listening don't just end up in a report that collects dust on a shelf. No, they become the foundation, the raw materials for designing new ways of working, new rituals that are actually tailored to your specific organization. And they have a real shot at success because they're born from reality, not from some generic off-the-shelf playbook.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but what can you actually do about it, Monday morning? How do you start to interrupt this deficit reflex in your own organization, like today?
Here are 3 concrete actions. First, before you launch anything, ask your leadership team this one simple question. What is already working here that we absolutely cannot afford to lose? This immediately shifts the focus from problems to strengths. Second, take the first month of your project plan and just delete all the action items. Replace them with sensing-only sessions. No solutions allowed, just listen. And third, when a team pushes back, don't just label them as resistors. Go find out why. What promise was broken the last time? Their resistance is data. It's the system talking to you.
This quote just perfectly sums up the entire story, doesn't it? For decades, we've been obsessed with the harvest, the financial results, the efficiency gains. We've optimized the process, we've upgraded the tools, but we have completely and totally ignored the soil, the culture, the trust, the psychological safety, the very conditions that make any growth possible in the first place.
And so that's the final question I really want to leave you with. As you look at your next big project, your next transformation, ask yourself honestly, is your plan just another attempt to optimize the harvest? Or are you finally ready to get your hands dirty and start tending the soil?